We've got our anchor leg coming up, and really no better person to bring us home than Jimmy Pitaro, along with Tom Richardson. Tom is, for those of you who don't know Tom, our students who haven't taken Tom's class or our alums, Tom is a longstanding faculty member, teaches digital marketing and media course, industry pioneer from the NHL, from the NFL, runs his own consultancy now. I can't even do justice to all the really cool and interesting things that he has done over time. And joining him today in conversation is Jimmy Pitaro. Jimmy is the chairman of ESPN, and the list of folks who have held that position is populated by essentially, for all intents and purposes, a Mount Rushmore of people in the sports media business. So without further ado, please let's join me in welcoming Jimmy Pitaro and Tom Richardson.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to do this with Jimmy here. My only trepidation was that when Scott told me it was 30 minutes, so well, we're going to have to pack a lot in 30 minutes.
Let's do it.
Jimmy,
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the past and a little bit about the future, maybe mixing a little present along the way. And I'd like to do that in the context of the evolution of media that we've lived through from Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3. So you went to Yahoo Sports after the company you were working for, Launch Media, which was a pioneer in music streaming, was acquired by Yahoo.
Yep.
And you eventually became the head of Yahoo Media, including Yahoo Sports. And you called that a defining moment in your career development. So I want you to talk about that a little bit, but I also want to point out to everybody who doesn't know the history here that Yahoo was in a heated battle with ESPN.com for digital supremacy back then. And you pulled off the impossible. You guys beat ESPN, and that was huge news in the business, 2008-ish or something like that?
Exactly right.
So can you talk about that a little bit and also like leading into where you went after that, obviously to Disney next, what lessons learned and things?
Yeah, sure. First off, thanks for having me today. I was a lawyer working for Launch.com. Launch was a very progressive new media company, and we were thriving, and then we weren't. The bubble was bursting. The internet bubble was bursting, so we were running out of cash, and so we ended up selling the company to Yahoo. And I stayed on board as a lawyer / business affairs executive, and did that for a few years, and then one day I got invited to lunch, and the head of Yahoo Media at the time asked me if I'd be interested in running Yahoo Sports. And that was a defining moment for me personally. I went from managing 12 people as a lawyer to managing, I think, over 1,000 people overnight. But I jumped at the opportunity. I'm an athlete. Sports has been a huge part of my life. And the gentleman who offered me the job knew that about me. He knew I was very passionate about sports. So he took a chance on me, asked me to stretch, took the job. That went relatively well. I woke up every single morning and I said, we have to beat ESPN. Right. And when I say beat ESPN, meaning in the ComScore rankings, website rankings. The
unique visitors, some of you know, that was the metric.
Yes, correct. And so we were number 2, number 3, depending on the month. But the entire team was motivated by beating ESPN from a digital perspective. Right. And so yes, we got there. That felt really good. And then the gentleman who was running Yahoo Media left the company. They asked me to do that. There's another a moment where someone asked me to stretch. So I went from leading Yahoo Sports to all of a sudden I was leading entertainment, news, finance, games, etc. And then 2010, a woman named Sheryl Sandberg joined the board of the Walt Disney Company, and she looked at what was happening from a digital perspective at Disney at the time, again, 2010, and she was not happy.
Right.
And so she reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in meeting Bob Iger. And at first I actually said no, because I was so happy at Yahoo. I had a ton of variety. I felt like I was on a really good path.
And Yahoo was a real powerhouse at that point.
Things were going very well. And I'm also a fiercely loyal person. And the company Yahoo had been very good to me. And so I just felt somewhat disloyal by even taking the thought of taking a meeting with the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Anyway, long story short and long story longer, a couple of months go by and she called me back and she said, just take the meeting with Bob. And so I went to his house on a Sunday afternoon, and it was supposed to be like a 45-minute meeting, and it was several hours. And I left his house and I walked to my car and I thought to myself, okay, I want to go work for Bob, and I want to go work for the Walt Disney Company. And so a couple weeks later, they offered me the job, and that's how I ended up at Disney.
What a great story.
Yeah.
A good lesson for everybody. If you ever go to an interview and it runs a lot longer than it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's a good sign, I guess.
Sign.
Yes.
Just back up for a second vis-a-vis the changes that you experienced while at Yahoo from 2001 to 2010. So we had the emergence of social media as a major disruptive force in the business. The mobile revolution starting in 2007-8. And then early streaming, broadband we used to call it.
Yep.
How did you, I know you've talked repeatedly in all your interviews about the importance of strategy and how you're kind of a strategist first. How did you navigate your way through those Web 2 changes?
Your job as a leader is to provide clarity. And I had a golf instructor once who said to me, on your swing, you can only think about 3 things max, right? If you try to think about more than 3 things during your swing, it all falls apart. So as a leader, I try to convey, well, first off, you need a mission statement. You need a North Star. And then you need clear priorities. And so when I was at Yahoo, and then fast forward to today at ESPN, I think if you walk the halls of Bristol, Connecticut, our LA office, or Charlotte, or New York City, and you ask any employee at ESPN, what's the mission statement? You'll hear, serve the sports fan anytime, anywhere. If you then say, okay, what are your 4 business priorities? They'll tell you, direct-to-consumer audience expansion, quality storytelling and programming, and innovation. And I really mean that. Yeah. Any employees will be able to tell you that.
Right.
And so the message to our employees is, if you're not working on one of those, a project that is connected to one of those 4 priorities, something's wrong. And so I believe that our employees know where we're going. They know what we need to do. We are operating in an incredibly challenging environment. There's no way around that. There are fewer people watching television today than there were yesterday. There'll be fewer people even tomorrow. And younger people especially, you all know this, they're consuming sports in different ways. When I was your age, there were 3 or 4 channels. I was a fan of my teams. Right. I was less a fan of individual players and more a fan of my team. So when Reggie Jackson got traded from you probably don't even know who Reggie Jackson is. When he got traded from the New York Yankees, I was no longer a Reggie Jackson fan. Right? I'm a New York Yankee fan. I'm a Knicks fan. So today, we all know people are consuming, younger people especially, are consuming sports more on social media. And they're consuming sports in different ways. It's more short form. And what we see from our research is that fans are more focused on individual players than teams. And so we need to lead. By the way, we do not refer to ourselves as the worldwide leader. Right. That's actually a pet peeve that I have. It's always felt un-ESPN-like. ESPN has this environment of work hard, do things the right way. The fact that we have historically referred to ourselves as the worldwide leader has always felt a bit off from my perspective. I'm fine if other people want to refer to ESPN that way, but let's focus on serving the sports fan. Let's be of service. That's our mission. But in terms of how we're navigating through this environment, we're doing the best we can to lead. And that means you gotta change, right? And so when you see younger people spending more time on social media, you have two choices. You can say, now we're gonna focus on our owned and operated property or properties, or you can say, we're gonna continue to focus on owned and operated, but we're going to be present on social media.
Right.
And we're gonna be present there in a way that's not marketing, it's native to the platforms. And so fast forward to where we are today, we're the #1 media brand in the world on TikTok. We're leading in terms of our ESPN handles, our SportsCenter handles. If you look across Instagram and Snapchat, we're not just the leader in the sports industry, we're the leader in the media industry. That's because we've built a team. Right. We've built a team of 60+ people that do nothing but think about how we can create content experiences for these third-party platforms.
Right. And you have a legend, a young legend working on that, Omar. Who's the founder of House of Highlights.
Correct.
And went to Bleacher Report and then subsequently to ESPN. That was a really good hire, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I got to quickly interject because you mentioned some Yankees legends. I found out in a combo before we got out here that Jimmy has a dog named Jeter to show
yes.
another
Yes, I do.
of loyalty. We're talking dogs.
Although, so we did an ESPN docu-series called The Captain a few years ago, which was essentially Derek's story. It was just as much a story about the Yankees, but it was really focused on Derek. And of course, I got to know Derek pretty well throughout that experience. So I've known him for several years now, and I made a big mistake. When I first met Derek, I probably should have said, hey, by the way, this is maybe a little bit weird, but my dog is named Jeter. And I didn't do that. So now fast forward 3 years, and I speak to him all the time, and I have not told him. He'll probably find out through this conference that I have a dog named after him.
I'd like to see the moment when he finds out.
That's
So you have really positive momentum right now in all these different areas, the rights deals that we all know about, all of the stuff you're doing in social, all of the talent, just so much good stuff going on. But you can't rest on your laurels, we know that. And we've got this shifting ground below us, ranging from changing consumer behavior to new technologies, et cetera. I know a few years ago you started the ESPN Edge Innovation Center.
Yeah.
And you've been pioneers in doing things like the Pylon Cam, MegaCast, ManningCast, Disney Fun Day, Toy Story Fun Day football. You've really been pushing it. Can you talk about that mentality and like kind of what you're doing month to month, year to year now, and what you think about projecting out as we get, for my next round of questions, I'll get into AR, VR, and stuff you're doing with Meta, things like that.
When I mentioned our priorities before, one of them is innovation. And so ESPN's been around for 45 years. And if there's one thing that I think really captures the spirit of ESPN and its identity, it's innovation. Long predates me. First network, first 24/7 sports network, first in sports HD, sports, first in terms of the MegaCast. You mentioned the ManningCast, which is an alternative broadcast, but we also have what we call the MegaCast, right? So college football playoff, we have the primary broadcast, and we'll have an alternative on ESPN2. Then we'll have different camera angles. We'll have the Sky Cam. We'll have Coach's Corner. The idea is giving the sports fan options and making sure that we're delivering or presenting the game in a way that's going to resonate not just with the core fan, but also with the casual fans. So since you mentioned the ManningCast, yes, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, it's on ESPN2. It's an alternative broadcast on Monday Night Football that's hosted by the brothers Peyton and Eli Manning. And so when we went into that, we thought, hey, is there an opportunity for us to grow our audience? Is there an opportunity for us to maybe present Monday Night Football in a way that would resonate more with the casual fan? And so if you look at the research coming out of Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli, we're doing exactly that. What we're also seeing is that the sports fan, even the hardcore sports fan, is going back and forth. Like, that was what was really fascinating to me personally when we saw the data, that folks are tuning in to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on ESPN1 or on ABC, and then they're kind of checking out Peyton and Eli, especially when the game is like 35-6. You know, maybe they'll go over and they'll say, hey, what are Peyton and Eli saying? Who are the guests that are on Peyton and Eli? We've also been very proactive in terms of adding to that roster. So now we have Bill Belichick that appears regularly, which has gone really well for us. But just the more macro level, that spirit of innovation is alive and well at ESPN. And so it's more important than ever. Again, in a world where fewer people are watching television, in a world where we need to follow the sports fan, we have to present our networks directly to the consumer. So if you're on the sidelines right now and you're not subscribed to a cable or satellite provider, or what we call a digital or virtual NVPD like Hulu Live or YouTube TV, this time next year, you will have the ability to buy just ESPN. You will be able to enter your credit card, pay us a monthly fee, and have everything that is ESPN. We've obviously never done that before, so that is a pretty significant move for us. At the same time, and this is more in the category of innovation, it's not just about flipping the switch and making our networks available. When we do this, probably August of next year, pre-football season, it'll also come with significant product enhancements. So yes, you'll be able to get all of our networks, but the shoulder experience around the video will be much more interactive. It'll be much more personalized. We will have multi-screen. You will be able to have 4 different games going at the same time if you want. As you scroll over, the audio will go with you. We will incorporate fantasy. We're obviously the leader in fantasy, so if the New York Giants are playing on Monday Night Football and you have Daniel Jones as your starting fantasy quarterback, that will show up right next to the linear digital feed. If you likewise have placed a bet on Daniel Jones through ESPN Bet, and you've synced your accounts, your ESPN account and your ESPN Bet account, your contextually relevant betting information will appear there as well. If you want to buy Daniel Jones's jersey, you'll have the opportunity to do that. If you want a more robust stats experience around the Giants or the Redskins, whoever they're playing, you'll have that opportunity. You'll have the ability to sync your phone with what's happening on your smart television. So if you're on your Samsung Smart TV and you fire up the ESPN app, and you then are on your couch and you fire up your phone and you open the ESPN app, you'll have the ability to seamlessly connect your phone, your mobile phone app to the experience on your television, and then you'll have that second screen experience. It'll also be your media control. You'll be able to control what's happening in the ESPN app on your phone. I can go on and on here, but we have an army of people, engineers, front-end engineers, back-end engineers, designers, that are working on all of this right now.
It sounds like sports viewing nirvana for us fans.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
and I just want to follow up on that and ask if, I assume you guys are closely watching what Amazon's doing with their broadcast, where they've done these enhancements, next-gen stats,
yeah,
the replays and stuff like that. That's kind of a glimpse of things to come, you're suggesting,
look,
I suppose?
Amazon is doing a good job, I will tell you that. Yeah. And one of the questions I get all the time is, hey, like, yeah, there's cord cutting, but what about all this competition and driving the rights fees up? All that is true, right? There's more competition today than there has ever been for sports rights. And that just shows you the power of live sports. In a world where fewer people are watching television, sports ratings are going up. Not share, but the actual number of people watching sports is going up. It just shows you how important sports are in this environment. At the same time, from my perspective, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, they have Christmas Day NFL games now. I truly believe this. It's a rising tide. If Amazon and Netflix can bring in more sports fans, if they can bring in more casual fans, if they can convert casual fans to hardcore sports fans, how is that bad for ESPN? Right. In my mind, that means more people are going to watch Get Up and SportsCenter and First Take. More people are going to follow us on social media. More people are going to, if you're introduced to the NFL through Thursday Night Football on Amazon, I feel like it's more likely you're going to then watch Monday Night Football on ESPN.
Or all the shoulder programming about the NFL.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's interesting that everybody's kind of got their own take on this, and what you just described with, for example, gaming integrations, betting integrations, this has been an interesting case because now you're in the betting business with ESPN Bet, but you've seen it, some deals happen the other way where they're bringing in the stream into the betting environment. There's a few examples of that. Do you feel like that's going to be a big adoption driver, specifically because of the growth as more states come online, as more people just delve deeper into betting and fantasy?
Look, if we did absolutely nothing in the betting space, the advancement of legalized sports betting is good for ESPN. If you have a vested interest in the game, you're more likely to watch the game.
Of course, yeah.
You're more likely to search for information through ESPN.com or the ESPN app on that game that you've invested your hard-earned money in. So that was the starting point for us. But we're, of course, not doing nothing. Like, we've actually been in the betting space for over a decade. Like, we've had studio shows. Scott Van Pelt has had a segment on SportsCenter called Bad Beats that's done very well for us. We've had a dedicated area on ESPN.com. We've had branded ESPN. We've had a branded ESPN studio in Las Vegas on the Strip in partnership with Caesars. So we've been gradually making progress and being more aggressive in the space. But then, yes, of course, a little over a year ago, we partnered with a company called Penn Entertainment and launched ESPN Bet. So we are not taking people's money.
Right.
We are not the book.
Right.
We do not own the transaction. Mm-hmm. That is all Penn Entertainment.
Right.
What we did do is two things. We licensed our brand to Penn. They now have ESPN Bet. And we put the power of ESPN, the megaphone, as we say internally, behind ESPN Bet. So now across our studio programming, we are calling out ESPN Bet, promoting driving to ESPN Bet. Across digital, across social, we are driving to it, and that's the value exchange. They're paying us for this, and there's upside, financial upside for us as well in terms of the deal that we struck, but they're getting the power of ESPN, the full power of ESPN.
Right. I'm getting nervous because the clock is ticking down really fast, and I want to talk a little bit about the future. With the Innovation Center, I know you have various partners, and most recently the partner added was Meta.
Yes.
So you've already got some involvement with them on the X Stadium app, I believe, the VR app. But they're being very aggressive in this area, as you know.
Yes. With
the Quest and its different product offshoots. More sports seem to be gravitating that way to experiment. And we've got Apple in the game now with Vision Pro, and I believe there is an ESPN Vision Pro app.
There is.
That's still early days, we know, because the price is so high. But where do you see that going? What we'd all, I guess everybody's calling fully immersive sports viewing experiences. So a level higher than what you just described with Flagship and the integrations, but really kind of redefining the experience.
I'd add Cosm.
Yeah, Cosm's a good example.
To that mix, and we have a partnership with them as well. So we like the immersive physical experience that they've created, and I think I know they're expanding beyond Los Angeles.
Getting a lot of great press right now, too.
They are, and I think it's well-deserved. In general, we like the space. From our perspective, at least for the next couple of years, it's more about licensing for us. Yeah. So just to back up, in my job, the most important thing I have to do after setting the priorities and the vision is prioritize. And so in a world where we are making our flagship channels available direct to consumer over the top, that's a boatload of work, right? And so I have to be very careful to not stretch the team too thinly. And like I said, prioritize. So as I sit here right now, in the space that you're referencing, for us, it's mostly about licensing, meaning we are not going to go out there and try to replicate what Cosm is doing. Right. We are not going to create our own headset. But we very much like our partnerships with Meta and Apple and Cosm, and I think you can expect more. Those are non-exclusive partnerships, and I think you can expect to see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it'll be, say, 10 years out, so 2034, do you think those kinds of AR experiences, VR, fully immersive experience or spatial computing experience will be still a fringe piece of the business?
No, not in 10 years.
Okay.
In 10 years, I think it'll be commonplace, especially as the devices get lighter, and the technology improves, and
right.
Meta is making great advances in both categories there. So no, I think it'll be. I don't know if it's going to displace the phone. My bet is that it'll be more complementary to the phone, but I fully expect that 10 years out, it's going to be just about everywhere.
Right. 4 minutes. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about AI, because you have to talk about AI at conferences.
Okay.
And it really does make sense to talk about AI for lots of reasons. But you've been public about your ideas for incorporating AI into the business, including personalized sports centers, more efficient ways of writing basic stories, things like that. Can you talk about that a little bit? Then I would just want to add, for the next part of your answer, I went into an AI app the other day, thinking about this conversation. I typed in, would it make sense for ESPN to create its own large language model? Because if you think about the amount of data that you have historically and that you're putting out 24/7, it's really incredible. And the main, guess what the answer was?
Yes.
Generally, yes, but that it would be very expensive.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much compute.
Again, prioritization.
I understand. I know you're not going to be announcing an LLM next week, but can you talk a little bit about how you incorporate the AI opportunities that are expanding rapidly now into the business?
I'm a believer in AI, and when I say that, it's primarily focused on my belief that AI can help the sports viewing experience without displacing jobs. I actually think in the sports industry, and I'm just speaking on behalf of the sports industry because I'm not knowledgeable or experienced enough to speak beyond that, it's additive. And so I can give you so many examples. The first that comes to mind is highlights. So we are now, through AI, able to clip highlights at a much greater scale. So we are able to present highlights around sports that we otherwise would not have been able to do. And we can't go out and hire hundreds or thousands of people. It's just, we're a business, right? And so what we do needs to be profitable. So that's additive in terms of being able to cover and present more niche sports to sports fans. I would also say SportsCenter is a good example. For my entire life, for my entire experience with SportsCenter, I have wanted a personalized version of it. I'm a Yankees, Knicks, Giants, Rangers fan, and so when I fire up SportsCenter, I first want a recap around my teams, the teams that I care about. By the way, it also applies to my second favorite baseball team, which is whoever's playing the Red Sox, right? So I want to see what the Yankees did, and I want to see what the Red Sox did. Right now, it's a little wonky in the ESPN app because you can favorite
Right.
Leagues, teams, and players. I want to see what the Red Sox did last night, but I refuse to favorite the Red Sox. So there's no solution for that, right?
That's great.
So AI is going to help solve for
that's
that.
great.
But you get what I'm saying here, which is first presenting the highlights that are most relevant to me, and then more lowest common denominator stuff, the most important stories in the industry. And then through AI, we can piece it together, cut it together in an elegant fashion. And then, text to video, text to audio. I commute. Every day I drive myself to Bristol, Connecticut, and I'm in the car for 2 hours, and there's a lot of investigative stories that I want to read, and there's only so many hours in a day. We have now a play button where I can just listen to narration around, and so we wouldn't otherwise be able to, it just wouldn't be profitable for us to go out and hire voiceover actors to go handle that.
Right.
So.
The time has expired, but I'm going to pull a Neil Pilson, if Scott doesn't mind. Make it quick. Go. Oh, really? Okay, so the clock was wrong? All right, that's cool. End of day, end of conference. This has been terrific, and thank you, Scott and LJ and everybody and Danny who organized it. It's a great get-together. It's really good to be with everybody. You're talking to a big portion of the audience is students or graduates, alumni. How about just a couple of pearls of wisdom on career advancement?
First off, I would say take the job. And so from my experience, I was a litigator out of law school, having nothing to do with sports. I've always been a sports fan, but my career actually makes no sense if you look at it. I was actually watching an Eagles documentary on Netflix, and my wife and I are big fans of one of the members, this guy Joe Walsh, and he was being interviewed, and he said, when I was living my life, it seemed like a total mess, like this cacophony. Right. But now I'm in my 70s, and I look back, and it looks like this beautiful symphony. And so I think the message that I'm trying to convey here is just get going. You don't have to hold out for that perfect job. Just be engaged, work hard, do things the right way, treat people well, give your manager, your boss clarity on where you want to go, and then probably as important as anything, continue to network. Continue to build relationships. I say to my wife's an actress who actually went to Columbia undergrad, and I say to her all the time, it's really hard, the entertainment industry. But you got to get up at bat to get a hit. So don't be afraid of failure. Just reach out. I remember when I was in college and when I was in law school, I would send out dozens, if not hundreds of resumes, but it only takes one hit. Just one person to believe in you. And so just get going, get started, and then if you're not in the exact right job or perfect job that you want or the exact industry that you want, that's okay. You can run parallel paths. Just be proactive, be even aggressive in terms of networking and trying to make the right connections.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.